My ex left me for someone else, but the other woman ruined his plans. I, 27 female, was with my ex, 26 male, who I will call Nate, because if I'm being honest, minus betraying a friend, I was a Cassie. I don't want to go too much into the details, but for the last 9 years, I lost myself to Nate. He was my world. Everything I did was for him. I helped him through depression. I helped get and keep his grades up. I even worked 2 jobs so he could focus on college when his parents disowned him for nearly 3 years because they didn't agree with the major or college he chose. Bear in mind, I was also a college student. When his parents started talking to him again and started to financially support him, we moved into a new apartment. Nate said he wanted me to quit my job. I didn't, because it was his turn to take care of me. For 16 months, everything was great. He spoiled me. Then I noticed he was more interested in his new friends, and at times he ignored me completely. Back in December, he did a 180 and he love-bombed me the whole month. He really went out of his way to make Christmas magical for me. I honestly believed he was going to propose. On January the 2nd, he made me my favorite dinner and made this speech about me being his first love, how I've been there since high school, and I kept thinking, any minute now, he's going to ask me to marry him. But no, he dumped me. As his speech went on, my world fell apart, and as much as he tried to sugarcoat it, he basically said, you were a good girlfriend, but that's what you'll always be to me, a girlfriend. I don't see you as my wife or the mother of my children, blah, blah, blah. You served your purpose, now I don't need you anymore, blah, blah. I need someone on my level, blah, blah. You're a gold digger, blah, blah. I'll give you 30 days to move out. I couldn't speak as he stared at me looking for a response. I think this lasted 20 minutes before he said he'd sleep in the guest room and then left. Strangely, I didn't cry or get angry. I just ordered cardboard boxes online and then went to bed. The next day, I waited for him to leave the apartment before I left my room. Then I called my boss and asked, or really begged, if I could transfer anywhere. She told me there wasn't anything, but if something came up in my department, she'd consider me. I then reached out to everyone I knew that wasn't also Nate's friend for a place to stay. My cousin invited me to stay in her spare room for as long as I needed, and I could move in straight away, so that was amazing. In the 4 days it took me to pack my stuff and move out, I didn't see or speak to Nate. I doubt he even noticed. I didn't trust myself at the time to ignore a "you up" text, so I blocked him and everyone close to him, even changed my number and email to make sure he couldn't reach me. The first night at my cousin's was the night everything hit me. I think I cried every night that first month. I honestly felt like crap. I thought about what Nate said over and over again, and it made me feel so low, like I was nothing, like he only stayed with me because I was just there. But thankfully, my cousin sent for my mom, other cousins, and real friends to give me an intervention, which I badly needed. I believe that first month, I wouldn't have made it without my cousin. I'm still healing and waiting on that job transfer because I feel like if I'm not in the same city as Nate and I have a place of my own, the fresh start would do me a world of good. I thought by now I'd be a distant memory for Nate, but shockingly, he sent flowers to my job today for my birthday, which was on Sunday. Apparently, he went to my parents' house looking for me too, and my mom admitted he's been there before, dropping off stuff and trying to ask questions about me, but they told him to F off. The flowers came with a card saying, "Dear Cassie, happy belated birthday. I've been thinking about you non-stop for the last few months, especially with how everything ended. I need to get something off my chest that I feel will haunt me for the rest of my life if I don't tell you this to your face, but I have no way of contacting you. If it's possible, can we meet up in the near future? Nate." What could he want? What's haunting him that he needs to say to my face? Everyone in my life is telling me to ignore him, but they hate him. I'm torn, but I can't lie. My curiosity is telling me to meet him to see what he wants. Has anyone been in my shoes or in Nate's? And there is an update. So we ended up meeting. And no, I didn't go to him. I told the receptionist at my work that if he came looking for me to just say I'm out for the day after he showed up once. I didn't want the drama of him around my job. So Nate just kept going to my usual places like the grocery store I go to every Saturday evening, or the park I ran at on Sunday mornings, his words, until he would eventually run into me. And he did yesterday. He was waiting at the coffee shop I go to after my morning run. When I saw him, I tried to turn around and leave, but he kept calling me. So I thought to myself, if everything went pear-shaped, a coffee shop would be safer than my walk home. So I just sat down and asked him what he wanted. He gave an apology that wasn't an apology, you know, the type with the "I'm sorry, but," and "pity me, boo-hoo." He blamed his mental health and his job and his parents and his friends and everyone but himself. I took someone's advice on here and said, "Cut the crap, I already know everything." He genuinely looked shocked and stared at me for a second. I guess he thought his coworker had already told me everything, so he couldn't lie. Here's what really happened. He fell for a girl in his office. When he told me her name, I knew her immediately. I've even met her a few times. He told me that for the last 2 years, he had idolized her. And to be fair, she is a beautiful woman with an amazing personality. And he hated me because I was the one stopping them from being together because his coworker was too classy to be a side piece. When he broke up with me, he confessed to her that he was madly in love with her and that he had ended a 9-year relationship to be with her. And here's where it gets funny. She doesn't even like him. She called him a piece of trash and told him if he ever spoke to her outside of work, she would report him to HR. So I asked him what any of this has to do with me. Like, we're over. I've clearly cut ties. There is no reason for us to speak. He wants to try again. He promised we'd get married before the year ends and that we belong together. I told him, no, I am nobody's second choice. He threw me away after 9 years and said some pretty cruel things to me. And now he thinks if he could just snap his fingers, I'll come running back. He tried to beg in fake tears, bringing up the good times in our relationship. I told him to please leave me alone, as he had wasted too much of my time already. I texted my cousin to meet me at the coffee shop, and he kept saying nonsense. He even suggested that if I went to couples counseling for a few months, then he would leave me alone. The 20 minutes it took for my cousin to arrive felt like 20 years. In the end, I just stopped listening and stood at the counter making small talk with the baristas until my cousin arrived. She told him to F off, and that if he tried to follow us, she would call her brothers. He stayed in the coffee shop as far as I know, and we just went home. And that's it. It's only been a day, but I feel like it's over, and I am free of him. And that is the end of that story.